Good morning. Welcome to this month's edition of Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation's third Wednesday Parent Resource Chat. As most of you know, my name is Bettina Campbell, and I am the Social Service Director and Medicaid CHIP Assister for Oak Hill Regional Community Development Corporation, which is a parent company for Healthy Kids Mississippi. Today, I will be your moderator, and I have with me, as usual, Mr. Thomas Duke Robinson, who is our Technology and Metrics Director. We recognize Jennifer Garrett as our President, and also we recognize our Program Director, Lottie Miner. In addition to this Zoomcast, we will be restreaming today on our Oak Hill Regional CDC and Healthy Kids Facebook pages, and we encourage you to share across your social media platforms. So, having said that, we're in the middle of November, and November, we know we celebrate Thanksgiving, and we celebrate but we don't think about sometimes the other national awareness days that are in September. And so for the month of, in November. So for the month of November, there's the pancreatic cancer awareness, National Alzheimer's, and also National Caregivers Month. And today we're going to be focusing on the pancreatic cancer and self-care. And self-care is something that we often all neglect, but it's something that we should put primary emphasis on, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't effectively take care of anybody else. But before we begin the presentation, I want to encourage you to please share please share this webinar again across your social media platforms. Then I want you to make sure that you have a pencil and paper so that you can take down any questions or concerns that you might have while the presenters are talking to us, so that we will be sure to save time at the end of the presentations for your questions and your concerns. Now, according to the NIH and also the National Cancer Institute and the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, pancreatic cancer is a type of cancer that begins as a growth of cells in the pancreas. Now, the pancreas is behind the lower part of your stomach, and it makes enzymes that help digest food and hormones that manage our blood sugar. Most common type of pancreatic cancer is pancreatic adenocarcinoma. That's a word I just asked how to pronounce. That's a mouthful. Adenocarcinoma.
There you go.
Adenocarcinoma. This type begins in the cells that line the duct and that carry digestive enzymes out of the pancreas. Pancreas cancer is rarely found in the early stages when it has the best chance of being cured. That's because there are often not any symptoms until after it is spread to other organs. And when this happens, some of the signs of pancreatic cancer may include belly pain that spreads to the sides and the back, a loss of appetite, weight loss, yellowing of the skin and white of the eyes, which is called jaundice, dark colored urine, and also it may be a new diagnosis of diabetes, or if you already have diabetes, it may find that it's getting worse, so harder to control. And then also pain and swelling in an arm or leg, which might be caused of a blood clot. And then there's tiredness and weakness. And one other symptom that I'll mention that I just learned, and we can share later, Dr. Vereen can share later, but also depression. So if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, it does not mean that you have pancreatic cancer, because we know that these symptoms cover a wide range of other illnesses. But if you have symptoms and you are concerned, then you should go and see your doctor and talk to them about your concerns. And if you go to the doctor and you are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer or possible pancreatic cancer, your health team considers the extent of your pancreatic cancer when creating your treatment plan. And those treatment options may include surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, or a mix of those. Today, we are fortunate to have with us Reverend Sammy Franklin, and he's agreed to talk to us and share with us about his firsthand experience with pancreatic cancer. By way of introduction, Pastor Franklin was born and raised in DeSoto County. He is a graduate of South Haven High School and Gateway Seminar. Pastor Sammy has been in the ministry for over 36 years, and currently he is the pastor of New Ford Missionary Baptist Church in Senatobia. And he is a former associate minister of Pleasant Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Finally, Pastor Sammy wants us to know that he's married to First Lady Linda Franklin, and that he has 3 adult sons by his late wife, Kathy Tate Franklin. Welcome, Pastor Franklin. Thank you so much for agreeing to share your family story. And I'll let you share it in your own way.
Yes, ma'am. God bless you. Thank you for having me on today. I start off with my wife. She lost a sister. Then she come back and she lost 3 brothers. One of the brothers was a good friend of mine, was my partner, Roland Tate. He had pancreatic cancer. We had never really heard about it. We didn't know much about it. But then when he got it, we started looking. And it was within a month at a time that they was passing away. And when my wife got it, I don't know if we should have recognized it or not, but she was a diabetic and she had to give herself shots. And all of a sudden, she didn't have to take shots anymore. She didn't have to take it and everything was good and she was eating what she wanted to eat. And then all of a sudden it started to, like she had an upset stomach. And she had an upset stomach for like a week or 2. And finally, I told her that an upset stomach don't last that long, that she needs to go and get checked. And when she went to the doctor, she went by herself and I went on to work. And when I went to work, she called me from the hospital at Methodist South and told me that I needed to meet her at Methodist downtown. And when we got there, they told us that she had pancreatic cancer also. So we tried to do everything that was possible. We had a stent put in her upper intestines, and we fought with the insurance company to try and get one put in the lower intestine, but unfortunately that didn't happen, because when they got ready to put a stent on the lower intestine, they told us that the cancer had already took it over too. So, and I found out, I used to hear people say that eat, it'll make you feel better. But I found out during this pancreatic cancer is that eating was only hurting her. It was hurting her because she was taking down the food, but the food was just sitting there. There was no way for the food to move itself. And that's what I found out about it. And when we found out that, when I found out, it was really too late when we tried to get the stents and everything put in to bring it out of her side. And from the time that we found out that she had it, she only lived 3 months because it was already in its last stage. And I found out that pancreatic cancer has a 9% survival rate. And even when we was in the hospital and she was there, the doctor told her that it was in the family genes that told my kids that they must keep getting checked, because it had already took my wife's sister, 3 brothers, and now she was passing on. But I thank God that it brought my awareness that I never knew about pancreatic cancer until this transaction started to happen. So that lets us know that we need to pay attention. There is no sign that I know of that until it's already full blown gone, out of control. So that's my story on how when she left us, I remember the pain that she was in. That it is excruciating pain. I remember that until you lay there beside the person at night and listen at them beg for pain medicine, and you can only give them so much this hour, and you have to wait until the next time and give them some more pain medicine. And I know that she was in excruciating pain. I didn't want to let her go, but I finally talked with God, and because she said that she didn't want to suffer. And when I turned it over to God, he did exactly what he said he would do. And when she was in a can't think of the word but she wasn't to wake up anymore. They told her that she could hear us, but she wouldn't wake up. But then before she passed, we had service in her room, and she raised up, opened her eyes, looked at us, smiled, laid back down, and went home to be with the Lord. And that's why now that we can thank God that she was saved. And pancreatic cancer is something that we all need to make aware of. And that's my story.
Thank you for sharing with us. I know sometimes it's not easy to bring up those memories, but I'm so glad that you were willing to share, because hearing it from you and hearing your from a lay person, it sometimes does more for people, because then they know that there's someone who's going through what they've gone through, and they can reach out for the support that they need. And so thank you. We do a lot of educating here, but we also want to educate about the other side of it, the human compassion and feeling side of it. And so thank you so much. But I do have just a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you. Why is it important that we have a day like the National Pancreatic Month? Why is it important that we have that to increase our awareness? And why is it important that the spouses and parents and other family members be allowed to grieve in this type of loss?
Because sometimes we would never know about it. We have to be aware so that we can be able to tell our families about it so that we don't be caught sleeping. Because sometimes we're caught sleeping, not knowing the outcome. Because when I was going through it, I was started asking the doctor, and the doctor was telling me this, but then I had to go to the pharmacist and ask him what did he say, and the pharmacist broke it down and said, I hate to tell you, but you need to start getting ready. So we need to let people know that pancreatic cancer is out here, and on the grieving part, it's everybody have to grieve in their own way. And it's not a set time on grieving. It's just that we have to deal with.
Thank you so much. And the other question is that I want to find out is if it has losing a lost one to pancreatic cancer increased your involvement in awareness?
Because I try to educate people that it is here. It is here. And it's really on pancreatic cancer is not really addressed enough. We know that breast cancer and all the other cancers are important, but we need to put more emphasis on pancreatic cancer as well.
I agree with you, sir. It is something that we don't hear a lot about, but unfortunately, it is, a lot of our people are dying because of pancreatic cancer or as a result of the complications of pancreatic cancer. So I want to thank you again for being able to share those questions with us. And we'll address any other questions later on after Dr. Vereen's presentation.
Okay.
So I just need to take a deep breath because
Amen.
it's heavy when we're talking about subjects like this. Many of us are already eagerly looking forward to celebrating the upcoming holidays when we are eagerly and frantically preparing our menus. We are searching for the perfect gifts for our loved ones and for friends. And we're in general just looking forward to the big celebration that we all engage in around the holidays. And so our second speaker today, who is Dr. Vereen, and he's definitely no stranger to this audience. And we are so excited to have him back with us again today to remind us of the very important need for us to take care of ourselves, because so often we don't factor that into the day. We're busy taking care of everybody else, but self-care is kind of like the last thing that we think about. We put that on the back burner and we force ourselves to push forward. So I'm so glad to have Dr. Vereen here today. And as I said, he is no stranger, but just in case we have people who are listening that may not know who he is before he does his presentation, let me share just a little bit about who Dr. Vereen is. Dr. Don Vereen Jr. is currently the director of the University of Michigan Substance Abuse Research Center. He is a public health psychiatrist who directs community-based research activities and public health research in such areas as drug abuse, addiction, mental health, violence, and HIV and AIDS at the University of Michigan School of Public Health. He was born in Biloxi, Mississippi, but he traveled the world as an Air Force brat. And he earned his AB degree from Harvard College, and he earned his MD from Tufts University School of Medicine. He also has a PhD from Harvard School of Public Health. After completing his fellowships at Johns Hopkins and Harvard Medical School, Dr. Vereen developed new collaborative research programs at the National Institutes of Health. As a medical officer and a special assistant to the director of the National Institute of Mental Health and the National Institute on Drug Addiction. This work included providing research-based health and policy advice to federal and state judges and the 2 mayors of Washington, D.C. From 1998 to 2000, he served as the deputy drug czar under Presidents Clinton and Bush, where he oversaw community-based prevention efforts and the National Youth Anti-Drug Media Campaign, the introduction of drug treatment approaches, and the U.S.'s effort to establish the World Anti-Doping Agency. He returned to NIH to oversee efforts to bring power to research to bear in such areas as child abuse and neglect, health disparities, and developing new clinical research strategies. Welcome, Dr. Vereen. And again, thank you for agreeing to give up some of your precious time to talk to us about valuable health information.
Hi, good afternoon. It is a pleasure and an honor. And I have to give a shout out to Mrs. Campbell for your invitation. And like Reverend Franklin, I'm honored to be here. Perhaps I'm going to talk about self-care as I was asked to do, but I'm going to take a note from Reverend Franklin. Reverend Franklin shared with us an important story and an important health issue, like the one I'm going to talk about. The main point, I guess, that I want to say, that I want to piggyback on from Reverend Franklin, is that all of the things that we suffer from, the diseases that we experience, have a number of aspects to them. And There are three aspects that you've heard me talk about before when I've talked about different aspects of mental health, substance abuse, addiction. There's a biological component. There's a psychological component. And there's a social component. Now, the paramount component for pancreatic cancer is the biology. There's an organ, there are cells that start replicating out of, faster than they should be. They're creating things that shouldn't be there, spreading and causing havoc elsewhere in the body. And that biology goes unnoticed until it's too late to be able to do anything. When a person gets a disease, they have a psychological reaction to it. The people around them have a psychological reaction to what is happening. And then part of that disease is the telling of the story of the course of that disease, which Reverend Franklin was gracious enough to share with us. That's a part of the disease as well. He's taking what he's learned about the disease, shared his feelings, and perhaps had a cathartic experience that we are the beneficiaries of. We have more knowledge about pancreatic cancer. We're aware of it in multiple different ways now. And I would argue that is the first step in terms of self-care. We've gotten more information, we're metabolizing it, and we're turning it around in a way that will be useful to us. So that every year when we celebrate or think about Pancreatic Cancer Day or Week, we'll move on and be able to share with others, but move on in terms of our knowledge and our understanding and our ability to deal with and perhaps even prevent this issue in the future. So what I've just done in terms of piggybacking onto Reverend Franklin is to cover most of the issues that I want to be able to cover today with self-care during the holidays. So let me first say, we're going to be celebrating the birth of Christ. That is a form of self-care. So let's not skip over that. That celebration and doing it with all of what we have to bring to bear on the holidays is self-care, that fellowship, the worship, the remembrance, all of that is important for our well-being and our wellness. So that's the first thing. And then I'm going to go through some biological, psychological, and social things. So the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, there are social times. And during those times, we're with other people. And when we're with other people, there's nothing that's written down, or there's no law that says, well, you're with your family, but that doesn't mean you like every member of the family or you get along with every member of the family. Sometimes there's stress within families. There are things that have not been resolved. And then there are times when you're able to put those aside and enjoy each other's fellowship. But there is this social component. And I raise the pluses that might happen and the negatives, because one of the things that's important to do for our own wellness is taking stock of the positives and the negatives that are out there and taking control over the things that you can control. If you can maximize the time to be in a positive way, to worship Jesus's birth, and you can do that in the brief time that you have with your family, that is self-care. That is what I would write down in a prescription for you as a psychiatrist, if you could do that. It's better than a pill, but being aware of those things, taking charge of them, and moving forward is really important. So that's on the social side, and that's a little bit of the psychological side. On the biological side, there are some frank things that happen. The sun is not out as much. It gets colder. I'm up here in Michigan. It's colder in Michigan than it is where I was born. The sun is out a bit longer up here than it is in Mississippi, lower Mississippi. And I'm not going to give you a full tutorial on what happens to our bodies and the circadian rhythms and our sleep and things like that. You know most of this, so you have a working knowledge of what happens when the sun is not up as much. Our mood goes down. Our activity level goes down. We're inside more. When we're inside more, other biological things start happening. Because if you're with a family, if you're not living alone, you're inside and your biology is interacting with other people's biologies. COVID, the flu, colds, those biological things are important things to take into account during the holidays. That you want to protect yourself from. You want to make sure you get vaccinated on the things that you can get vaccinated on. You may want to keep your distance, wear masks, spare people, what happens when you sneeze by covering up, or if you're feeling a little bit sick, not going out to protect people from the germs that you may have. So your self-care I'm including self-care, my definition of self-care, and taking care of all aspects of yourself during the holidays. I don't want you to forget about those things, those biological things that can be triggered given the social situations that are going on. We sleep more, and there are other symptoms of depression. We may be motivated less. Our interests may dwindle. We may be feeling guilty about all kinds of things. The holidays are a time when we remember people who we've lost. As the Reverend was talking, I was reminded that during the holidays, I'm going to remember some of the folks I've lost and the folks that I miss. And that may take me down a bit. Completely normal. In fact, it's something that we should be able to do. But we shouldn't let those things take us so far down that we can't celebrate the people that we've lost. We can't remember all the wonderful things that happened when the folks that we lost were around. That is a part of wellness. There is sadness during Easter because Jesus Christ died. But Easter is the celebration. We do mark the day that he died, but we celebrate the day he rose, and we celebrate his birthday, or the birthday is as close as we think we have to what happened in reality, but we all agree to celebrate on that day. So that is an example of acknowledging the things that can bring us down, but being in control of, acknowledging and being in control of the things that are positive and spending time with the positive, and that takes work. Now, what I've just tried to do in summing up some of these things is that my message today in the assignment that I was given by Mrs. Campbell, I realized that I was not going to be here to give you a recipe for wellness and a diagnostic menu of the things to look out for and to avoid and to try to reverse. It was important for me to follow through on my assignment by getting you to think a little differently about what wellness is and how you go about maximizing it. It's not a menu per se. It's take in and acknowledge what's going on biologically, what's right there in front of you, the feelings that you have, even if they're sad ones. And then looking at the other side of those feelings and being able to enjoy the experience of what's on the other side of those feelings. So it's a way of thinking that I want you to sort of grasp and that I wanted to leave you with. And the second is our mindset. Yes, we're going into the winter, we're going into the darkness, but that shouldn't cloud what we do. That shouldn't force us to only think about the negative. You know, most of us as Black people in this country, our mindset is determined by the crises that we're facing every day. Every day there is a crisis, and we're always in repair mode. We're always having to fix something. We're thinking about the deficits, what isn't there, and what we're supposed to be getting more of, and fixing what's broken. Well, we all have assets. We all have things that we do well. There are wonderful things that we bring to the table, literally and figuratively. I can bring, a wonderful cooked turkey to dinner, but I can also bring my sense of humor, the stories that I could tell, the things that I can contribute to the fellowship. That is just as important as any biological intervention to raise our mood and to deter some of the more negative moods that we might be able to experience. So take stock of what you have, what you can share, and use it. And on that point, I'll stop and then take any questions or comments, and any of the points that are in my notes here and on my slides, I'll add as through the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Vereen. Really appreciate you being here to share that. And I'm sure it's a view that's somewhat different from others that you're going to get when we're talking about self-care during the holidays. But I do want to just talk briefly about how we talked about how our mental health can play a role, but how can substance abuse play a negative role or a positive role during the holidays?
Well, one of the things that we do, now I have a whole section.
I can barely hear you, Doctor.
What's that?
I can barely hear you.
Oh, let's see what happened. How about now? If I speak a little, that's better?
A little.
Oh my gosh, something's changed. Because I haven't touched anything, I think.
Sister Campbell?
Yes.
And now there's been no change in the way I hear him.
Okay, then it must be Sister Campbell. Let me check mine. Go right ahead, Doctor.
All right. So the holidays create a situation for us that can be stressful. When we're stressed, we have to adapt to the stress. We have to what's the word I'm looking for? We have to address the stress, deal with the stress. And there are some healthy ways to do that. And then there are some unhealthy ways to deal with stress. As we get older, hopefully we come up with more sophisticated and better ways to deal with stress. One of the easy things to do, if you look at our children, you see something bad, you run away. You see something bad, you try to hide from it. And so we do that by eating a lot, because that makes us feel good when we're in a state of not feeling. You may show up to dinner feeling sad, but oh, when you see that turkey, when you see that dressing, those things will actually make you feel better. And what you're doing is you're using your body's biology to make you feel better. You are eating things, your appetite is being satisfied, and you are turning on your pleasure center. People, when they're not feeling great, will sometimes gravitate to having a lot more sex. Even more than food, the dopamine in the brain that gets released when you have that delicious cranberry sauce, you multiply that effect by 10 or more. You know, you're having a, good time with your significant other. You're raising those dopamine levels, and you're feeling better, and you're forgetting about the troubles. The same thing happens with alcohol and other drugs of abuse, except they're a direct way to get to your brain. You're taking a chemical that goes right to the pleasure center and releases all that dopamine and makes you feel good, so good that you forget about what's troubling you, or you forget about the things that you need to do to be able to keep up in life. And people get into trouble with that. And this is why. They take a shortcut to hide those feelings by taking the drug. And then the drug, when they take it at such a high dose, it starts to change the brain a bit. And the brain needs more of that substance. You need more alcohol to get just as high to hide from your problems. And you keep doing that over and over again, and soon your brain has been rewired, and you are in a circuit chasing your tail, constantly trying to hide, constantly trying to find that next hit so that you can hide from your problems. And that's why the holidays are so tough, because there are so many things going on in the holidays that could nudge you into that cycle. I mentioned, sometimes our families can be very toxic. There's some tough people to deal with, and you're trying to hold it together and you can't. So you take that extra drink, and then that extra drink loosens your tongue and other bad behaviors, and then you have another thing to deal with. So again, think about the biology, think about the psychology, and think about the social. People are drinking because they want to change their biology, either to just enjoy the wine, or they're taking those extra drinks to hide from some feelings, to hide from a loss, to hide from something. So if you're hearing me say, you know, maybe it's a little bit okay to hide from some of these things, sure, but know what you're doing. Know that you're hiding. You know, I'm gonna hide for the next hour that I'm here at this dinner with my family. And then I'm gonna go home and then really deal with what I need to. Or if the issue that you're trying to deal with is at that table, you'll deal with it for an hour, and then you'll go home and you won't have to deal with it anymore. It will be taken care of, and you can engage in the things that will make you feel whole and to feel yourself. So that's it's a non-prescriptive answer to the question. I've been trying to illustrate how the drinking fits in, because I don't want to pathologize the behavior. It is okay to have eggnog that is really spiked when you are having a good time with the family, and okay, you had a little bit too much, but that's okay. Now, but if you're in the throes of addiction, you know, if you have a predisposition, you know, like the Reverend was saying earlier, people can have a genetic predisposition for the pancreatic cancer. If you got a genetic predisposition for addiction, then the idea of drinking alcohol is not one of the things you need to be doing to make yourself feel a little better or to be able to enjoy yourself with your family. So know your biology. If you can take advantage of your biology and use it, use it. I eat too much. It's been a long time since I drank too much, but I will eat too much, and I will pay the price for it. I will pay the price for it. But remember that there are biological things going on. Really face up to the psychological things that are going on, and face up to the social situation that you're in. Assess it and move forward. If you need to hide for an hour, hide for an hour. If you need the drink to help you stand up to what's going on for that time, okay, do that for the 1 hour, and then move on to what is, you know, near and dear to your heart, whatever is going to be able to make you happy. It's being in control. You're not a victim of the circumstances you're in. You may be overwhelmed, but know that you're overwhelmed. Figure out what you can do in the time that you have, and then move to a better place. The Reverend Story did that for us. You know, he lost a loved one, but he's in a better place, and he is sharing all of that with us. It's a great example of self-care. It's a great example of self-care. He's able to go back to that tough time, but he is helping us, and he is feeling better about helping us and helping himself by sharing that story. That's self-care. That's self-care.
Well, you know, Dr. Vereen, thank you so very much, because I really wanted to have you talk about self-care today, because so many of us who are busy helping others,
yes,
often forget that we need to take care of ourselves, and we do
Amen.
things that put ourselves in jeopardy, unthinking. You know, we just do. When someone says they need us, we just do. For example, yesterday I got up and I had a call as soon as I got up, and I had another call and another call and another webinar, and I forgot to eat breakfast.
Yep.
I didn't allow myself time to eat lunch, or just barely enough time to get ready to make an appointment I was late for. So it's important that we help others, but it's also important that we don't do it at our own expense.
You have to remember your biology.
Exactly.
And then if you are going to put it aside, assess your psychological mood. Now, I've been in those situations and then just felt good about all the stuff that I got done. But you can't forget the biology. You do need to eat and make up for what you lost. Take stock of where you are psychologically, and then move forward. Just don't forget about those things. Don't keep doing it. That's what happens in addiction. You just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you're not taking stock. Oh, I haven't eaten. Oh, my fingernails are falling out. Oh, my teeth are falling out, because you're just focused in the addictive state. You're not paying attention to your biology, where you are psychologically, and where you are socially.
Thank you so much. So we will ask him other questions in just a few minutes. But before we go to that, Sister Lottie had something that she would like to share with us.
Good morning. Thank you all for giving me a moment. Pastor Franklin, thank you for doing just what I asked you to do. I appreciate that very much. Sister Bettina, this is something that Jennifer Garrett shared with me a few days ago. Jennifer is one of our board members, and I think this fits in line with what Pastor Franklin said and with what Dr. Vereen said. Brother Duke, can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me see if I can, I hope I can pull this up. All right. This is something that was put out by the American Heart Association. And again, it piggybacks on what both of these fine gentlemen have already said about fall and winter, bringing an abundance of good things, opportunities, turning over new leaves, as some would say, harvesting, physical harvesting, spiritual harvesting, and then health related harvesting. And this little flyer that Jennifer sent says, here are a few things to enjoy and be thankful for as we're practicing self-care, because sometimes we have to remind ourselves. Enjoy our morning coffee. You know, our morning coffee or morning hot chocolate is not something that we just throw back. We're supposed to sit there and enjoy that. Reflect on the day, pray, meditate, read the scripture, do whatever. A shared snack. You know, that could mean the world. Just taking a minute to just have a snack with a friend. Soft candlelight. A good book. A grateful mood. Just having joy in our hearts. You know, from the Lord. The joy of the Lord is my strength. It doesn't mean we're happy. Happiness and joy are two different things. If you look at it in the spiritual, but having a grateful mood, having joy in our hearts, taking a walk, and you all who know me know that the picture of the dog is certainly not me, but for some it might be taking a walk with our pet, or I'll say taking a walk with a friend or a family member, cat naps, crispy apples, or for me, a piece of chocolate. Sister Bettina, that does it for me. Warm, cozy socks. I won't say sparkly snow, Dr. Vereen. That's more so for you guys up there. We'll let y'all have that. A favorite TV show, a warm scarf, and there's all the festive foods. And then finally, the last thing the Heart Association recommends here is just enjoy the changing leaves, the beauty of God's splendor. Enjoy cozy time, you know, with a warm blanket. You know, whatever we like to get comfortable with on our couch or recliner or whatever. Letting go of expectations. In other words, just enjoying the moment, living in the moment for just a little while during the holiday season, not being so worried about what I got to do next or where I got to go next or the next assignment. and then looking forward to something instead of just making it an expectation, but joyfully looking forward to something. And of course, for most of us, that is looking forward to being with family and friends and looking forward to good food and enjoying the bounty that we've been blessed with. So it was not coincidence that Jennifer Garrett sent this out to the colleagues at Methodist this week. And it's certainly not coincidence that Dr. Vereen and Reverend Franklin talked about the things they did. I normally don't talk on this call, but I said, oh, this was meant to be shared. So that's all I have.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Vereen, did there's anything you'd like to share?
Well, I was just going to say, I have a similar list. You know, you said that was from the American Medical Association, and you know, there's a list, and thank you for sharing, because that was the time to present the list, so that it didn't show up as a recipe or a prescription, because normally that's how we think about things. These are all things that are within our power to do, actually. And the way you present it makes that clear. If I could add one other thought, so many of us, as Mrs. Campbell's talking about, we're just out there working for other people and not thinking about ourselves. All of these activities mean being selfish. There is a healthy selfishness. You know, when you put those two words, healthy, selfish? No, we were taught selfish was not good. But it is an important component of self-care. Being selfish in the right ways. And the examples that First Lady Minor have put out for us are those examples of being selfish. It's okay. In fact, it's wonderful to be selfish.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree. And those are some wonderful examples. Before we open up for questions, Pastor Franklin, is there anything else you'd like to share? You're muted, sir.
I would just like to thank y'all for this opportunity to allow me to express that we need to look at pancreatic cancer a little more in this United States or in this world, because people are really hurting. They don't know what to do when it comes to this situation, because it's a part that we have to learn, because I had to learn it after 32 years, you know, and then 32 years and then 3 months, it's all gone. But thank God we got a God that can able to do anything but fail.
Yes.
And I just thank y'all for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir, so very much. Before we do begin our questioning, I want to remind you that we would really love for you to share this information across your social media platforms. And we're going to now open our mics. If you're on Zoom, you can open your mics and share, or you can put it in the chat. If you're on our other platforms, please put your questions in the chat, and Duke will ask those questions for us. So, are there any questions? I did see one that says, "What foods are best to distress?"
I'll offer this. The best foods are the ones you like. The issue might be the quantity. Alcohol is a food, but only having 1 or 2 drinks is probably the best. More than that can be a problem. I love, there are all kinds of things that I love, but I can't have 5 pieces of pie. I love me some pie, but you can't have 5 pieces. So 1, maybe 2, but 1. So you have to pick the foods that you like. Now, in the wintertime, I didn't mention specifically, but seasonal affective disorder, where your whole body's hormonal system just ratchets down. Foods that can do that, can move you in that direction, are foods that are high in carbohydrates. So things with lots of sugar, foods that are starchy, can make you sleepy. Foods that may be more protein, like turkey, have serotonin in them. And serotonin can put you to sleep. When you eat, that's why we all go to sleep after having our turkey. Warm milk. You put milk in a pot and you heat it up, it releases serotonin. And that's what helps you to go to sleep. So those are the things that you might want to avoid unless you're trying to go to sleep. So lots of carbohydrates, things that are high in serotonin. I mentioned cooked milk, turkey. I'm drawing a blank on some of the others, but you can Google that or look them up. Proteins tend to make you feel like you're satisfied, that you're not hungry anymore. But they won't make you sleepy, and you might eat less if you ate more protein. Putting on the pounds by eating lots more fat will slow you down and keep you down. So it'll slow you down, and it'll slow you down mentally as well. So in general, I guess what I'm saying is too many more carbs than you actually need can make you sleepy, sends up your blood sugar, and lots of fats. Too much fat can just really slow you down. So the way to do that, if you ask the question about foods, whenever you think about foods, you should automatically think about activity. So if you're going to eat your favorite foods or eat things that are not going to slow you down, you need to be thinking about, well, what are you going to do after you've had that food? Because that activity is what is going to raise your mood. So even if you had that turkey sandwich, if you go and chase your children, run after the children, you'll benefit from the protein, but that serotonin you'll metabolize, and you won't be sleepy, and you'll get a little bit more exercise, you'll be in better shape, and you'll be in a better mood.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Are there any other questions on social media, Duke?
Not on social media, but we do have a hand raised from our Brother Campbell.
Brother Campbell?
Okay. Good morning, almost afternoon, everyone. Dr. Vereen, good to see you again, even though
Amen.
it's electronically. Pastor Franklin, I appreciate the comments that you made. And what I wanted to do is just share a little bit of my experience with pancreatic cancer. A few years ago, 2012, was it? I lost my mother due to pancreatic cancer. And after she died, and we had an opportunity to just go back and do a little bit of reflecting in terms of what had happened, well, then you developed this 20/20 hindsight, as we would say. Now, at the time when my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, she also had dementia. She had had dementia for a number of years beforehand. So, and she was mid-80s. She was actually 87 when she died, but let's say early 80s, her dementia was pretty severe. It became pretty severe. So with dementia, you have a number of symptoms, a number of biological and physical symptoms that you notice, things such as fatigue. There's loss of appetite, seemingly not wanting to eat. tiredness. And so we look at things, okay, well, mom doesn't want to eat, but yet if I would take her out and get her a hamburger, she loved her hamburger. Or if I bring food over to the house, any type of food over to the house, she would love food because she hadn't eaten for a while. And then, we were told also during that time that sometimes with this disease, the dementia, that people just forget to eat as well. But then later on, we started noticing that she would stumble in her apartment. She was staying in a senior assisted living complex. And so we talked with maintenance people there about possibly putting a rail down the hallway so that she could hold on to that as she was walking through. Something else also noticed was going to her bathroom and look in the stool, and there was this dark, almost brown urine left over in the stool. And so dementia, forgetfulness, coffee cups left in the closet for a long period of time. So just figured, okay, well, the brown urine is just because she had forgotten to flush the toilet and it had sat there for a while. Okay, but now looking back, well, there's one other symptom too. Okay, mom was starting to get bloating in her abdomen, and she had some degree of bloating for some time. She had had some abdominal surgeries, and so she had had this bloating. And so it didn't really noticeably appear like it was necessarily any more severe, but we did notice the bloating. Well, then now in retrospect, as you look back at the symptoms that you read about, things to look for, well, yeah, brown urine should have been an immediate indicator that maybe she should get tested for pancreatic cancer. And maybe because of the falling, the fatigue and whatnot, maybe that could also be a sign. But I know she had gone into the hospital emergency room a couple of times beforehand, and we didn't think to mention the brown urine. We just talked about the falling and whatnot. So I guess what I'm trying to say is when we're dealing with particularly older people and even younger people, particularly older people where they have a multitude of different ailments that may be going on, it's important that we don't take anything lightly. And if we see something that looks unusual, don't immediately pass it off as being, oh, this is such and such, or such and such, because it may very well be a sign of a more serious problem. And of course, his mom progressed with the pancreatic cancer. I think she lived like 23 days she lived 23 days after she was placed into the hospice. So about 24 days after, 25 days after we were informed that she had pancreatic cancer. And mom, being the type of personality she was, the type of person that she was too, she didn't go to hospice, residential hospice, to die. What I like to say is she went there to live until she died, which is what she did.
Amen.
And I won't bore you with the funny stories about, what we thought the funny stories about her going out and asking the girls if they needed any help with anything there. But that was our mother, and those were our last days with her. But again, thank you, Pastor Franklin, for doing a presentation, and again, reinforcing the fact of things that we need to look for with people, with our relatives, with our loved ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I make a comment? I want to thank Reverend Campbell. Thank you for sharing your story. But there are so many important messages that you've highlighted for us, but I'm going to underscore a couple. The first is, you may be diagnosed with something. It could be a cancer. It could be dementia. That doesn't mean that you're not going to develop something else that's diagnosable. We have this mindset, especially in the American culture. There's one answer. There's only one thing that can happen. It's one thing at a time. No. And the challenge with your mother is that with the dementia, she couldn't communicate things that were changing. And one of the things we do not do when we're trying to help people take care of their relatives who have dementia is you have to learn to look and think for them. Thank goodness you were checking her stools and her urine. Most people don't, you know, when you think about it. It's very understandable to not think much about it because you were trying to explain it. And it's a very tough thing to come up with, but or to figure out, you know, sort of the right answer from the brown urine. And so much of what she was experiencing, the fatigue, the stumbling, the forgetting, even the bloating can be a part of what happens with the brain changes in dementia. And that's why I'm going to underscore my point about biology. All of those are biologically based. And if I could go back to the bloating with the brown urine, those go together because the enzymes from the pancreas were not available to digest her food. And what was being passed along was being eaten up by bacteria that produces gases, the kind of bacteria that we want to keep at a minimum. And that's the biology you were witnessing there. But thank goodness you were observant and recognized that. And I would like to say you did nothing wrong. You actually observed some very important things. And yes, we do need to be on the lookout, because just because you have one disease doesn't mean you're gonna be free from anything else from happening to you. A very important lesson.
Thank you, Dr. Vereen, and thank you, Mr. Campbell, for sharing with us. If there are any other questions or concerns, we're going to sign off social media, and for today, we're going to sign off, and those who are on Zoom, please stay with us for a while, but all other platforms will sign off.